Hey there guys, what's going on? Today we've got a fantastic one in our best class setups in Modern Warfare videos, and we are kind of cheating here today, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Infinity Ward has put this absolute masterpiece into the game, and as you can see in the background, just look how gorgeous this thing is. It is a crossbow, of course, but more than that, is an absolute monster. This is my new favorite, I guess, gun that they've put into the game. Like, this really isn't the strongest weapon in the game, but it certainly is probably the most fun to use. Like, remember how I said we're cheating here? Well, we straight up spent a little bit of cash when we got the Ice Wolf bundle or whatever it was called, and that comes with the Ice Lance blueprint for the crossbow, and boy is it super fun to use. But before we do get into talking about this class setup, let's try and get this video to 5 likes. You guys have been fantastic with all your support recently, and I really can't say this enough. I'm just so proud of everyone who even clicks through my videos, like looking just to try and get the class basically, and then skips off. So make sure you do hit that subscribe button with those notifications turned on so you don't miss any more of my videos. Plenty of content and videos to come, so don't miss out. Let's talk about the crossbow class. So with certain attachments, the crossbow is a one-shot machine. Like, you can equip this thing with 4 different types of bolts that are all crazy. You can get explosive bolts like the original Black Ops crossbow. You can also throw on venom bolts for a little bit of crowd control by dropping a bit of tear gas on impact. I think that's going to kill the person. I'm not 100% sure. I only tested it for a little bit with the venom bolts, but my absolute favorite is the backburn bolts, which are basically little thermite grenades that just cook people, and it's super hilarious, and it's really, really strong. A one-shot kill is hilarious for a weapon that fires basically instantly and will hit the enemy pretty much just as quickly. Like, this is probably going to be the most satisfying weapon in Modern Warfare. I'm not even lying for a second. I've hit some nasty shots with this, and I can tell you that you just know that people are salty when they die to this. I know I would be if I got basically cross-mapped by this thing, just running around, minding my own business, and then suddenly I just dead. Just for no reason, you just died. That's the power of the crossbow. So I've got 2 classes here, one of which is the blueprint you received from the bundle in the store, which is known as the Ice Lance, which we'll talk about first, and then what I think is probably the best attachments for the crossbow in my opinion, because I think there are some improvements that can be made to that blueprint. So we're going to talk about our sidearm perks and grenades here. They'll be the same for both classes, so we'll talk about it fairly quickly. The sidearm, of course, will be the 357 snake shot with the basically the pocket shotgun. You definitely need something up close for having a crossbow with you, so this is always a good idea in my opinion to have with something like this. So you'd have it probably with a sniper, a crossbow, something that are a little bit slower, don't work as well at close range. Perk 1, we're going to go with EOD, so you don't just randomly die to just silly grenades and stuff like that. Perk 2, kill chain, and perk 3, battle hardened. Pretty simple. Just these are perks I run on literally every class in the game, so it's hard to go past them really. They're my favorite ones. The lethal grenade is going to be the C4, and the tactical is going to be the stim shot. These are the best ones for me. I do like both of these. They're very powerful at what they do. So starting with the Ice Lance in the arm slot, which is the equivalent of the barrel. In this slot, we're using the XRK Thunder 200 pounds. And just remember, this is what the game gives you with this bundle. So this is basically the barrel option, and that gives you like that bullet velocity, damage range, you know the ones. With the XRK Thunder, you get damage range and bolt velocity, which that means you lose a little bit of recoil and aim down sight speed and movement speed. I feel like this is a pretty strong option regardless of what you can do here. Like, in my experience, the bolts travel about as far and as quickly as you would expect them to with this particular option here. Like, this is what you would expect. Like, you fire the bolt for the first time and you're like, yeah, that feels about right. I feel like these other options here would make it a little bit more difficult to hit those long range shots, which is understandable. Like, I feel like the XRK Quill is also a strong option in saying that. Whereas that gives you the aim down sight speed, movement speed, and recoil control minus that bolt velocity. So if you do want to play more aggressively, I'd use the Quill 100 pound. And with this blueprint, we have been given the XRK Thunder, and it is a very good option. Always good for those long range shots. So we'll talk about more options here in a second when we get to the second class. But this is what you're given, and this is what works for me. In the optics slot, we are given the aim op reflex sight, which is of course not the one that I would choose, but I think it is a fairly serviceable option. Like, it does the job. There are definitely better sights in my opinion. You can definitely rock the GI Mini reflex, but then again, like, the blueprint keeps us stuck on the aim op, so it does what we need it to do really. It just like helps us stay on target. It's a cool option, and it really does help you hit those shots at longer ranges. In the stock option, we've been given the FSS Speed Track stock, which basically gives us that aim down sight speed minus that aiming stability. I feel like this is probably the best option for the weapon, apart from maybe maybe this one, maybe the Forged Tac Dart CB, the aim walk movement speed. It sort of depends on how you play. Aim down sight speed is very, very important for a crossbow though, so if you do end up getting surprised by someone and you're not really ready with those sights up, you haven't got much of a chance, so making it a little bit easier to get those sights up is always going to be super important. In the perk slot, of course, we basically need sleight of hand here. This is like a must-have attachment. You can't really get away with a crossbow that reloads very slowly. It's just not something that you can just do. You cannot live without sleight of hand, in my opinion. I'm glad this blueprint has it because it would be much, much worse without it. And lastly, we've got the bolts here, which for the ice lands are the F-Tac backburn 20-inch bolts. Thermite tip bolts one-shot people. It's hilarious. Like, you'll hit them and then you get hit markers and you just know that they're cooked. Like, you know that they are finished. There's nothing that they can do. You've got the kill job done, basically. And I'll definitely be mad when I get hit by this and it kills me, but for now, I love it. It's so funny. Yeah, this is the full Ice Lance setup that the game gives you for purchasing. I think it's the $15 bundle. It's not too bad price-wise, and it lets you play with one of the more entertaining weapons in the game, really. Like, I think for 15 bucks, if you don't have time to get 5 kills in 25 different games, this is a great option. Like, instead of completing the challenge, it's just fun. Like, this is a good weapon to use. Like, you can make this work. It's very, very fun. So now we're going to talk about what I think is the best class setup and attachments for the crossbow. Right, so this is what I have come up with here. This is basically the one that I think is the optimal setup. So I feel like both of the cable options here aren't really going to do a lot for us. They're not really relevant in most part. The 16-strand cable gives us a higher accuracy, which should be fantastic, but it minuses bolt velocity. So you can be more accurate, which would be fantastic for hitting those longer range shots, but you definitely have a harder time timing and aiming the bolt because of the curve that the bolt would then shoot slower, so you lose a little bit of velocity and then it gives it a curve to the bolt and it doesn't make it as effective. The same goes for the 28-strand cable, but it's the other way. So it definitely shoots those bolts faster and then they land exactly where you want them to a lot faster, which would be perfect, but it makes it less accurate. So you'd struggle to hit those longer shots anyway due to the loss of accuracy. So we'll skip on the cable here. In the arm slot, like I said, in the Ice Lance setup, you've definitely got two options here. The 200-pound Thunder and the Quill 100-pound. This really does depend on your playstyle. Like, if you're going for those longer range shots, you'll want the Thunder. If you want to pick up the fast option that's more mobile, then you use the Quill. Both of these are definitely good options. So, damage range, bolt velocity rather, and aim down, sight speed and movement speed and recoil control. Really depends on how you want to play. I choose the Thunder so I can hit those really long shots with this bad boy. I feel like we could pick up the tack laser in the laser slot. I feel like we could grab this for that aim down, side speed, aim walking steadiness, and aiming stability. But I think we can get better options in other places. Like, I think it's just one of those things that you grab these options later on. It's like the same goes for the optic slot. We don't really need this, but if you do prefer a separate sight, you can always chuck one on, like you rock the Geo Mini Reflex instead, and then you can get something, you can take something out of the stock slot, for example, to put one of these two in, basically. So repeating on from the optic slot, you can interchange the stock slot with it. So we're actually going for the Forge Tac Dart CB with the aim walk movement speed, as I was talking about earlier. It's sort of a toss-up between these two, aim down sight speed versus aim walking movement speed. If you've already got those sights up, I tend to sort of walk around with those the aim already up. So when I start moving around the map, I get more benefit out of the aim walk movement speed than I do using the speed track. Plus we can get ADS speed from the underbarrel slot. The perk slot is Sleight of Hand, of course, which I've already said is a must-have. There's not really much else to say here. There's nothing else that's sort of maybe focus for that flinch resistance, but other than that, it's not really relevant here. You just want that Sleight of Hand, just get those bolts in the chamber. It's not really a chamber, in the thing faster, I guess. So in the bolt options, you actually can take your pick here. All three of these are fantastic options, and I feel like you can do work with all three or four of them. And so basically, I feel like depending on the game, you can change between them. And I'm sure the regular bolts will be just as effective. You just have to be slightly more accurate because you don't get any explosions or assistance with the kill. I really do like the backburn bolts, but all four bolt options are really, really fantastic. I really love the customization. Like, the Venom bolts shoot a tear gas cartridge at someone that'll explode on them and do, like, damage over time. It does a good job, whereas the Fury bolts will end up blowing up and just, like, explode someone. So if someone's got, like, a riot shield, this probably would do the job. I don't think the backburn bolts do a great job on the riot shield guys, so maybe the Fury bolts will be a little bit better, or even the Venom bolts. So it really depends on what you're coming up against, because you can change it on the fly. So give all of these a try. They definitely are worth a look. They're all very, very fun to play with. And lastly, we've got the underbarrel slot, which we've gone with the F-Tac speed grip, which gives us that aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed. This is basically your stipple grip tape here. Can you get grip tape? No, you can't get grip tape. So yeah, this is basically your stipple grip tape. This is what you want, man. You want to get those sights up as fast as you can, and when you're sprinting around like an idiot, you want to get those sights up fast as you can, basically. There's not really much else to go with this. Like XRK precision grip, aiming stability, aim walking steadiness is pretty meh. And the XRK Talon, recoil control, it's a crossbow. It's never going to bounce around too much, and you're not trying to hit a second shot anyway, so I mean, imagine like a rapid fire crossbow, like that would be relevant for that, but because this is only one shot, like the recoil is literally irrelevant. It really doesn't make too much of a difference. But yeah, man, the F-Tac speed grip is really, really good here. Gets those aim down sight speed and the sprint to fire speed. Really, really good, man. This is so cool. I love this attachment. So this is the best class setup for the crossbow in my opinion that you can see here. So the XRK Thunder, the Forge Tac Dart, the Sleight of Hand, the Backburn Bolts in my opinion, and the F-Tac Speed Grip. Like, absolutely feel free to disagree with me, but if you do, at least leave your class in the comments so I can tell you that you were wrong and prove you wrong and tell you what's going on and so on and so forth. But yeah, man, the crossbow is such a cool weapon to add in this game. It's so much fun to use. Like, you just one-shot people sometimes, and it's just, it's satisfying as hell, man. I love it so much. So thank you very much for watching this one, guys. There's loads of content coming from me in the upcoming days, and make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of it. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye!